hey, there's a toolbox in here that goes in your tractor. It's pretty cool. Let me show you about it. So this is from our website, itcquickattach.com, and you can get this with either our loader mount or our ROPS mount. This particular package has both inside of it for this video. So we got some bubble wrap, and now we have our toolbox wrapped in bubble wrap. So here's our toolbox, and it's sitting on top of the tray that holds it. I'll show you in a minute. There's some holes in the bottom that it bolts to it. Right now it's just banded, so we'll cut the band, get our band out of our way. Let me get separated. So this is the tray. It is made out of 14 gauge steel, powder coated in texture black. There is 4 holes in the bottom that line up with the 4 holes. They line up with the 4 holes in the bottom of that toolbox. We're gonna set this off to the side. We don't need this right away. Everything else is gonna be inside of this toolbox. Now, remember I said there's a loader mount and a ROPS mount in here. So there's more than you would generally get. We'll go through one of those at a time. So we'll set our toolbox off to the side for now. And we'll start opening up these individual items and show you what those are. So let's start with this. Here is our quick attach plate. Okay, so this will get mounted anywhere along the back of this. It can go pretty much anywhere that you see. And what that allows you to do is kind of mount with an offset. So if you've got like a cab on your tractor, and you need to clear the cab, you can mount the toolbox offset to the one side so you can get the clearance of the cab that you need. Here's the U-bolt. The U-bolt and 2 nuts for the loader mount. Now this is the loader mount. So here's the back of the loader mount. This is 3 inches tall. So you need 3 inches of flat vertical surface, ideally, in order to mount this. This U-bolt goes around your loader, and then into the loader mount. Now in the front of the loader mount, we have these 2 slots, and then there's a hole right here, right here. So there's a hole, and that hole is for a locking pin. So how this works is this quick attach plate will come with all of our accessories. Whether you order the toolbox carrier, the chainsaw carrier, just the chain box, whatever you order is going to come with this. And this locks down into it just like that. The pin goes across, and then that prevents this from being able to lift up and come back out. I'll show you from the side. We've got these hooks, and essentially the top hook will rest like that, and the bottom hook goes inside of this slot and then rests on the bottom. Okay, so the bottom hook is going to be resting on that position. The top hook is going to be resting up here in this position. So you get contact on both. It makes this a really, really strong design. When that pin goes in, it no longer allows it to come up, so it locks it in place. If you ever want to take it off, you can pull the pin out, you can lift this up and out, while this stays on your tractor. So you can swap from our toolbox to our chainsaw carrier in about 30 seconds. So when you're setting this up, go ahead and start with mounting your loader mount. Mount this on the tractor. Find the position on your loader upright that you want to put it. Put the U-bolt on, put on the 2 nuts, tighten it down. Don't worry about over tightening it. Don't worry if you start to bend the U-bolt, it's fine. Then you're going to want to take and find where you want this positioned. Okay, so you're going to put this up onto your tractor, and you're going to say, you know, where along this do I want it? And you can kind of move it left or right and fine tune where you want this to be sitting. After you have your position, you're going to take one of the included bags of hardware and mount this onto the toolbox carrier. So you find the position that you want this in, mount it onto here. After you do that, and you're all good to go, you can go ahead and mount the toolbox onto the carrier with these 4 holes. Okay, got those 4 holes that line up, and you're going to have So you'll have the second bag of hardware for that. Now it's the same hardware for both. Now whether you're mounting the quick attach plate onto the toolbox carrier or the toolbox onto the toolbox carrier, it's going to use the same hardware. Now if by chance you don't want this on your loader, which some people don't, and you'd rather up and out of the way on your ROPS, the only thing that we won't get on the ROPS mount setup is our loader mount. But we'll get our ROPS mount and our hardware. So I'll show you that now. So this should look pretty familiar. It almost looks like our loader mount. The difference is how it mounts, right? So we, instead of mounting on a flat surface, we're mounting on the surface and then coming out 90 degrees. That allows you to do a couple things. You can mount this in like any orientation that you want, and it's still going to work just fine. So it gives you a lot of flexibility around your ROPS. It takes the same locking pin, and it takes the same quick attach plate. It comes with its own hardware. So this one's going to come with 2 U-bolts and 4 nuts. And those U-bolts go back over here. And you can put these U-bolts in this position. There is some holes for some smaller U-bolts for smaller ROPS, although we really haven't ever used them. One orientation that every now and again gets used by customers is the diagonal U-bolt. So it does allow you to put this U-bolt in at an angle, or diagonally, in a couple different locations. So again, our ROPS mount's very similar. You'll mount this on the tractor, you'll find where you want your toolbox carrier to be sitting, and then you'll go ahead and mount your toolbox on the toolbox carrier after you install this. The reason that you do install this first is once you install this toolbox in position, you kind of lose access. And I know it might seem simple and obvious, but I can tell you from having people help with setting stuff up at shows, we'll go to a show and set a tractor up with some stuff. A lot of times people will mount the toolbox onto the toolbox carrier prematurely. So just make sure that you get this mounted in the position that you want it on your toolbox carrier prior to mounting your toolbox. When you are not using your toolbox, you can take it off your tractor and hang it on this. What is this? This is a wall mount. So it's similar to our loader mount in shape and profile. The difference is it's a thinner material because it doesn't need to be near as strong. And there's no locking pin because there doesn't need to be. So this you just mount on the wall, okay? You take this, mount it anywhere you would like. And then whenever you're not using your toolbox carrier, if you want it off of your tractor, you can just take it and the tool plate will again just lock onto here. Now it is a little bit, it's got some room on here because the thickness isn't the same as our loader mount and our ROPS mount, but it does do a really nice job of hanging this up out of the way. You don't need to worry about it. So if you have a toolbox and a chainsaw carrier and you're swapping back and forth between them, you don't need to go throwing your tools on the floor. You can go ahead and throw a wall mount up and you can hang your parts directly on the wall, and then you can get them up off the floor and out of your way. That's going to be about it. The only other thing is for the TYM owners, particularly the 474 owners. On the cab tractors, there's a marker light, and it's right kind of in the way of using the toolbox. So we have a little relocation bracket, this little hourglass looking shape, and essentially all this is you pull the 2 bolts, you put this on in place of the light, and then you put the light back on with this, or on the other side of it. That just moves it out of the way enough to clear the toolbox, but not stick it way out of the way. But it does do a good job of getting it out of your way. So this is an option when you're buying the toolbox kit, whether you want to add it or not, and that's what it's referring to when it says the light bracket is for the T474, 494, and 574. So if you don't have one of those tractors, check no, you don't need it. The only other option is the John Deere 440R loader mount. Now that's what this package is. So essentially, on the loader mount, this U-bolt is not long enough to go all the way around that. So what we did for that model is we have these extensions. And the extensions get threaded on, and then you can bolt it in place. That just makes the U-bolt a little bit longer. We also have extra long U-bolts. If we run into that situation, we can send you out an extra long U-bolt that's even longer than this yet. So those are the options we have. So when you're checking out and you're on the product listing page, that's what those are. That's what that means. So if you don't have a John Deere 440R, or if you don't have a TYM 474 or the other models listed, just select no. You don't need those parts. It's going to be a waste of money for you. So the installation is pretty straightforward and pretty simple. If you do happen to run into any issues, you can feel free to email me, call me, send a carrier pigeon, do whatever you got to do. But I'd be happy to help you make it work. So thanks for watching.